Whispers are turning into headlines. In a stunning reversal, Donald Trump is now urging the very nations he once targeted to buy American farm goods. From Beijing to Brussels, capitals once hit with tariffs and insults are being courted for trade deals. It's a dramatic shift, one that has stunned political insiders and enraged parts of Trump's base. Just years ago, his America First campaign battered international partnerships and triggered trade wars. Now, as the global food market tightens, Washington is scrambling to win back buyers. But the damage may already be done. Foreign trust is fractured. American farmers are caught in the middle. And the question echoing across the Midwest is chilling. Can lost allies ever be regained? The story begins not with diplomacy, but with disruption. During his first term, Donald Trump launched an all-out economic offensive under the banner of America First. With little warning, sweeping tariffs were imposed on some of the U.S.'s largest agricultural trade partners: China, the European Union, Mexico, and Canada. Crops that once moved freely across borders suddenly faced barriers, taxes, and retaliation. Beijing responded swiftly. Soybean imports from the U.S. dropped by more than 70% in 2018 alone. Europe, once a major buyer of American corn and wheat, pivoted to suppliers in South America. Even North American neighbors began seeking alternatives, with Canadian officials quietly expanding deals with European and Asian markets. The impact on U.S. farmers was immediate. Prices collapsed, storage silos overflowed, generational family farms faced bankruptcy. Though billions were paid out in subsidies to ease the blow, the deeper damage was already done. Trust. For many global buyers, American goods became politically risky, unpredictable, weaponized. Behind podiums and in press briefings, Trump insisted the short-term pain would lead to long-term gain. "We're leveling the playing field," he said. But in rural America, fields weren't being leveled. They were being abandoned. Farmers who had once rallied behind Trump began asking hard questions. Why were their exports falling while competitors thrived? Why had allies become adversaries overnight? And as deals shifted to Brazil, Australia, and Ukraine, one truth became increasingly hard to ignore. The United States had alienated the very nations it depended on. Now, years later, that fallout remains. The landscape of global agriculture has shifted, and Trump's return to the political stage brings with it a harsh irony. He is now asking for help from the same leaders he once accused of cheating America. It's a scene no one predicted. Donald Trump, once the architect of global trade breakdowns, is now making urgent appeals to former adversaries. Behind closed doors, sources confirm a quiet lobbying effort aimed at restarting agricultural exports, particularly to China, India, and even the European Union. The very same leaders he once accused of robbing America blind are now being courted as saviors of the U.S. farming industry. According to reports from diplomatic channels in Geneva and Singapore, informal talks have resumed. Chinese officials have hinted at limited soybean purchases, on the condition that tariffs are not reinstated. India is said to be weighing expanded imports of U.S. almonds and pulses. In Brussels, agricultural negotiators describe Trump's new tone as surprisingly cooperative. Tariffs. But the response has been cautious. Many nations remain skeptical. The memory of sudden and public insults is still fresh. One EU trade official put it bluntly: "We were burned once. We won't be fooled again." Back home, Trump is facing mounting pressure. Farm state governors are demanding action. Rural protests have begun reappearing, and campaign advisors are reportedly warning that without a foreign trade turnaround, he risks losing the very base that propelled him to power. In recent rallies, Trump has shifted his language. No longer just America First, he now emphasizes fair deals for American farmers, a subtle rebranding. But the stakes are far from subtle. This is no longer about political optics. It's about salvaging an industry on the brink. Whether it's wheat in Kansas or pork in Iowa, U.S. producers need buyers, and fast. And Trump, the dealmaker turned firestarter, now finds himself in the unfamiliar position of having to rebuild what he once broke. The numbers paint a stark picture. Since the onset of Trump's trade wars, American farmers have seen export markets dry up. prices stagnate, and competition intensify. For many, the past few years have felt less like a cycle and more like collapse. Iowa, once the heart of U.S. soybean production, reported a 35% drop in foreign demand between 2018 and 2020. In Wisconsin, dairy farmers, once global leaders, have been shutting down at a record pace. In the grain belt, corn storage facilities remain full, not because of a bumper harvest, but because there's nowhere left to sell. Government subsidies have kept some afloat, $28 billion in aid under the Trump administration, followed by more under Biden. But even these lifelines are running thin. As one farmer in Nebraska put it, "We don't want bailouts, we want buyers." The emotional toll is just as heavy. Generations-old farms are vanishing, young farmers are walking away, and the pride once associated with feeding the world is being replaced by uncertainty, frustration, and anger. Critics argue the damage was avoidable. Had diplomacy prevailed, had trade alliances been preserved, the U.S. would have expanded its dominance in agricultural markets, rather than retreating from them. Instead, competitors stepped in. Brazil now leads in soybean exports to China. India sources more pulses from Africa than from the U.S. Europe's food supply chain is increasingly looking east, not west. The long-term consequence: America's reputation as the world's breadbasket is slipping, and fast. And while Trump now tries to reverse course, farmers remain divided. Some still support his hardline approach, blaming foreign nations for playing unfair. Others see a bitter irony, that their livelihoods were used as leverage, and then left behind. What happens next may redefine not only U.S. agriculture, but America's place in the global economy. As Donald Trump attempts to restore trade relations, he's met with a world that has moved on. Former buyers have built new supply chains, formed new alliances, and in many cases realized they no longer need the United States the way they once did. The trust that once underpinned global trade has been fractured. And for farmers, this isn't just about foreign policy, it's about survival. Many now ask, can a second Trump term truly rebuild what the first one dismantled? Or is this the beginning of a permanent decline in U.S. agricultural dominance? There are signs of hope, but also signs of hesitation. China has agreed to small-scale purchases, but nothing near pre-trade war levels. India and Brazil continue to diversify their sources. The European Union remains cautious. Every handshake today carries the weight of yesterday's rhetoric. Meanwhile, political polarization at home complicates recovery. Trade deals require long-term consistency, something America's shifting administrations can no longer guarantee. From Paris to New Delhi, leaders are asking not just what Trump will do, but what the next president might undo. This is the crossroads. Either the U.S. adapts, rebuilds trust, and reclaims its role as a stable agricultural powerhouse, or it continues to lose ground to rising competitors. For now, the fields still grow, the silos still stand, but the question remains, who will buy what America grows? In the end, the fate of millions of farmers, and perhaps the very image of American reliability, depends not on slogans, but on whether burned bridges can truly be rebuilt. And in global markets, memory runs deep.